Hoosier men have a chance to break their losing streak tonight as they host Wisconsin. But it is a ranked Wisconsin team and a Wisconsin team that holds a win over Indiana this season. We'll preview that game as well as recapping the women's basketball team stumbling on the road against Nebraska to make the Big Ten title race that much closer this season.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? It is Tuesday, February 15th. This is Locked On Hoosiers, your daily one-stop shop for everything IU athletics, whether it's men's basketball, women's basketball, football, soccer, baseball. We have you covered with all the news, analysis, recaps, and previews as we'll do today. I'm your host, as always, Jacob Rude. Want to thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Reminder, we are free and available on YouTube at Locked On Hoosiers. Premiere the episodes there at 7 a.m. every morning, so you can make that part of your morning routine. Join the fellow Hoosier fans to talk about IU. As I mentioned, we will be discussing the men's basketball game tonight against Wisconsin, recapping Mike Woodson's radio show from Monday, and also recapping the women's basketball team falling to Nebraska on Monday as well. Before we jump into that, I want to thank our sponsor of today's show, Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. Tell them that Locked On sent you. As always, you can subscribe to Locked On Hoosiers wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Follow me at Jacob Rude. Follow the show at LO_Hoosiers. Let's first talk Mike Woodson's radio show. Not a ton of information in this one. Shout out to Inside the Hall again, who does a great job of just putting this all in one place. I see the tweets fly across my timeline. If I was more organized, I would grab the tweets as they came across, but I did not. So shout out to them for putting these all together. That's where I got most of these all these quotes from, I should say. Woodson said that he's aware that the offense is struggling. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see it. They went 5 of 21 from the three-point line against East Lansing. He says the struggles on offense is putting a ton of pressure on the defense. And stop me if you've heard that before. An offense struggling, putting pressure on their defense sounds a lot like a IU team from the fall that struggled a lot last season. Quote, you just can't win that way. Yeah, I mean, point blank and simple. When the offense can't score, you rely a lot on your defense, and that dam will eventually break with all that pressure you're putting on them, no matter the sport, no matter the game, opponent, any of that stuff. So offense has to be better, point blank and simple. The good news is typically your role players play better at home, something I've mentioned many times, especially when it's going to be what I assume will be a pretty good atmosphere for tonight's game against a ranked opponent with IU badly in need of a win. I think it could look a lot like the Breslin Center did for Michigan State on Saturday. That place was rocking. I think, I hope certainly that Assembly Hall is doing the same tonight. Interesting quote about the kind of leadership within the team. Said, quote, it's hard to say that we do have a leader, and that's not a knock on our team because we've never been in this position as a team. It's not shocking. I mean, it's a lot of guys that haven't been together. It's a group that doesn't have kind of a natural leader vocally. I would imagine Trace is kind of that guy on the court, but I'm not shocked. He isn't kind of that type of personality from what we've seen. So I'm not shocked that there isn't a leader. It's also a lot of guys that transferred in from different places. It's not a group that's been together a lot, so everybody is kind of feeling out their roles within the team. It's not surprising. As Woodson said, it's not an indictment or anything. It was just an interesting quote I saw, and kind of an interesting dynamic within the Hoosier team. I'm not sure if there will be a leader moving forward. There's a lot of guys that could come back, that may come back, and maybe that will change things. But I would imagine a leader within this program is somebody that's going to have been there for multiple seasons. And there's a lot of guys that could be next season. Xavier Johnson, Race, Trace. We'll see how that goes, but just an interesting dynamic. Mike Woodson said that IU still, quotes, controls its own destiny, or can control its own destiny with the NCAA tournament. It is a 3-game losing streak. It is frustrating, but right now, IU is still not in danger of missing the tournament. You need to get some wins, though, and we'll talk about this in a minute. I don't think this Wisconsin game is a must-win necessarily. In fact, I think if they win this game, assuming they at least take care of business against some of the weaker opponents, the Marylands, Minnesota, Rutgers, toward the end of the season, I would imagine beating Wisconsin tonight would probably cement IU in the tournament. But it's not a must-win, but it would be a big win, an important win if they came up with this one. He noted that he's kind of had to back off and practice a little bit because a couple of guys are injured. It seems like it's just small, kind of niggling injuries that you get this late in the season. Everybody is under 100% right now, so they're kind of backing off a bit down the stretch in terms of practice. Last thing is something I wanted to talk about a little bit more. Woodson said he constantly tells the players, quote, "You've played some pretty damn good basketball." He says he doesn't want players to kind of forget that or lose sight of it. Quote, "We've just got to finish." And that's something I talked about yesterday. And it's important to keep perspective in that regard, because I know the Saturday's loss was frustrating. They're in a 3-game losing streak. There's been a lot of frustrating parts about this 3-game losing streak, but it's still a team that plays pretty good basketball. 2 of those 3 losses were to ranked teams. 2 of them were on the road. Obviously, the Northwestern game, I think, is just going to be its own thing. But it does come as part of these 3 losses. So I think it is important, though, to keep perspective so that you don't hang your head. That's what I would want Mike Woodson to be telling the team, is that they're still a really good basketball team that plays good basketball. They've just had circumstances and opponents that have made it tough in the last 3 games. Hopefully they're able to kind of take that fact and build on it tonight and come away with a big win, because I think it's a winnable game for the Hoosiers. In fact, they're favored in the spread. I believe they are a 2.5-point favorite heading into tonight. If that is a bet you guys want to make, then I have the perfect place for you to go to. BetOnline. Now that the football season is over, basketball and college pro and college hoops are going to be the focus of everybody, and BetOnline has you covered with all of that. There's no more fun time to bet on really any sport, I think, than March Madness, which is right around the corner. If you want to bet on tonight's game, though, Indiana is favored by 3 points with an over-under of 132. BetOnline has you guys covered with all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, even where the next fired coach is going to land. They're your number one spot for all your betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net has you covered for hockey, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Olympics are still going on as well. They have all the coverage and information on that. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you guys get your favorite podcasts at. Let's take a look at this Wisconsin game tonight as the Hoosiers look to snap this losing streak. Indiana versus number 15, 16, Wisconsin, depending on whichever poll you prefer. Tip-off is set for 9 p.m. It's going to be on ESPN2, obviously coming from Assembly Hall. 9 p.m. start probably means it's not going to start on time, or we won't see the beginning of it. You got to really cross your fingers that the game beforehand does not come down to the wire, go to overtime or anything. Wisconsin, 19-5 on the season, 10-4 in Big Ten play. Since they last met the Hoosiers, that was the opening Big Ten game for the Badgers. It was the second Big Ten game for Indiana. But since that game, Wisconsin is 11-4 overall, 9-4 in Big Ten play. They are just 4-3 in their last 7 games, though. Obviously, all Big Ten games. They're coming off a loss to Rutgers on Saturday. They lost at home 73-65. They beat Penn State and Michigan State. Prior to that, it was a narrow win at home against Penn State. It was an 8-point win over Michigan State. They have losses to Illinois and Michigan State in that span as well. Only beat Nebraska by 8, only beat Minnesota by 6. This is a team, I've seen a lot of stats out there. They are winning very close games. It's hard to put luck into a number. I've seen people try with various algorithms. Anybody that tries to do that, their algorithm typically puts Wisconsin near the top of the list, just in terms of luck adjusted records. And this team has a much better record than their performances indicate they should, might be a better way of phrasing it, because they have wins over Purdue, Ohio State. We mentioned Michigan State. They have some impressive wins. That's why they are ranked. A lot of that is because of Johnny Davis, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But it is a team that, regardless of whether it's luck or not, they do have these wins. They do have this experience, I should say. I think everybody's fairly familiar with Wisconsin. The Hoosiers played them once already this season. The less we talk about that game, the better. When you look at their national ranks, where they excel, above average offense, above average defense, the second best team in the country at not turning the ball over offensively. They take care of the ball very, very well. But they are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country and the worst three-point shooting team in Big Ten play, shooting just 30.8% from the three-point line. One of the few and only teams that are worse than the Hoosiers in that regard. They also, just in general, offensively in Big Ten play, effective field goal percentage, 48.1% is 12th. Offensive rebound percentage is ranks 12th as well. Though, interestingly, they don't give up many offensive rebounds. So that's been an area the Hoosiers have kind of slid backwards a bit. That was a strength earlier in the season. The Hoosiers are just 11th in offensive rebound percentage offensively, and they're 8th in not allowing them. So it's been an area the Hoosiers have slid backwards. They're 14th in offensive effective field goal percentage, 13th in three-point percentage. So only Wisconsin is worse than them. 12th in two-point percentage, 13th in free throw percentage. I use very bad offense going against Wisconsin's, we would, I guess, overall could say bad offense, maybe below average offense, depending on the semantics there. But it is going to say it's probably not going to be a very pretty basketball game to watch tonight. But the Hoosiers don't need pretty games. They need wins. And that is what is most important. If they're going to get the win tonight, they're going to have to take care of Johnny Davis, who might be the favorite for Big Ten Player of the Year. He comes into tonight averaging 20.3 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, obviously leading this Wisconsin team. Again, not necessarily efficient, 43% from the field, 33% from the three-point line. The other guy there, Brad Davison, has been there forever. Hopefully, I guess it could happen in the Big Ten tournament, but hopefully this is the last time the Hoosiers play him. He's averaging 14.4 points, only shooting 34.9% from the three-point line, which a tick above average nationally. He takes 7 attempts per game, though, so he's going to get the shots up. He's the only guy on the team shooting above average from the three-point line. Johnny Davis is exactly average. Everybody else is below average on the team, so that checks out to them being the worst three-point shooting team. But it is I mean, Johnny Davis and Brad Davison are going to do a lot for this team. We saw it last time. It's going to be interesting to see something we talked about with Dustin DePierac last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago now, that Trey Galloway has really excelled at defending these guards, like your Jaden Ivies. He obviously got under the skin of. Um, he started last game. It didn't work well, but I'd be interested to see if he starts again this game, simply because he's going to be tasked with guarding Johnny Davis whenever he's in the game. So it'll be interesting to see how the Hoosier starting lineup looks. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Parker Stewart came in for Miller Kopp. It's not like Parker Stewart did much to earn a starting spot back, but the fact it went so poorly might indicate moving him back into the starting lineup could be something to help him out. As I said, I don't think this is a must win for Indiana, but I do think that this is an important game, if that makes sense. It could really steady the ship. This is right in the middle of that rough stretch that we had said they were going to have. Northwestern on the road, Michigan State on the road, this Wisconsin game, Ohio State on the road. They can win this game. They're not going to be favored in that Ohio State game. They can kind of absorb that potential loss, come back, win those 3 games against Maryland, Rutgers, and Minnesota. And things feel quite a bit better. And that Purdue game is going to be brutal at the end of the season. So you can absorb some of these games where you're going to be expected to lose. If you can go 4-2 in this stretch, I think it's going to be a big positive. To do that, though, you're probably going to have to win tonight. Ken Palm does have the Hoosiers favored 67-64, 59% win probability. That goes with BetOnline that we mentioned earlier, having the Hoosiers favored by 3. So Hoosiers are going to be favored in this one, but it is going to take a much better effort, especially offensively, to come away with this victory. I'm optimistic. I love these big games in Assembly Hall, though. It does seem like the fans kind of give IU an extra boost, and they're going to need it tonight because they really need to snap this losing streak. If they lose tonight, there's going to have to start to be some questions about their NCAA tournament chances, but let's save that conversation in case it happens. I don't want to be the pessimist or the guy jinxing the team. I'm confident they will win tonight and pick up a big victory. Women's basketball team, I was confident was going to win on Monday, and that did not happen. They fell to Nebraska. We'll talk about how they lost, or I should say why they lost, and what that does for the Big Ten title picture here in just one moment. But we need to talk about today's sponsor and one of our longtime friends, Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's really impossible for your local auto parts store to have the items that you need. On top of that, it is freezing cold in the middle of a pandemic. Well, I shouldn't say middle, but we're still in a pandemic. Just nobody wants to get out right now, especially when it's to go buy something to fix your car. So why wait in line or for a person at the counter just to tell you that they don't have it and they're going to have to order it anyway? Head to rockauto.com. You can do it at home on your phone. Sorry, forgot words there. On your phone, in your pocket, or on your computer. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. You don't have to spend money on those markup prices either. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could need, whether it's taillights, whether it's motor oil, whether it's carpet for your new or for your vehicle. They they get put through the ringer during the winter with all that snow. Maybe you realize you need some new carpet. Rock Auto has you covered. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto parts need. Go to rockauto.com right now. See what all is available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. The Hoosiers headed to Nebraska tonight, and they were favored. This was a pretty mediocre Nebraska team, but boy, did things get out of hand pretty quickly for IU. And the end result is Nebraska winning pretty comfortably 72-55. They pulled away late, though. I mean, they deserved every bit of this victory, and the final score was probably pretty indicative of how the game went. It was a woeful night offensively for the Hoosiers. They shot 23 of 72 overall from the field, and a hard to fathom 2 of 23 from the 3-point line, went 7 of 13 from the free throw line. They were doing everything they could at the end of the game, getting open looks from the 3-point line, and it was just one of those nights where nothing was falling. Nicole Cardano-Hillary, who's been the team's best shooter this season, was 1 of 10. It was all, especially in that fourth quarter, it was all open looks. They had some chances to get back into the game. It seemed lost. They put a press on. They got a couple big shots. They had more chances to knock down big shots. They just couldn't crack it. It just was not their night. Those shooting numbers are in spite of Grace Berger going 9 of 15 from the field and 1 of 1 from the 3-point line for 20 points. The rest of the Hoosiers were 14 of 57 from the field. Nobody had a very good game. Berger did with 20 points, but she was kind of the exception, and it wasn't a particularly loud 20 points either. She had 5 of those in the final minutes as they were desperately trying to come back when they were down pretty big. There was just no rhythm offensively at any point. It felt like part of it was Nebraska doing a pretty good job defensively. Part of it was the Hoosiers just missing shots. Like we said, they had 8 points in the fourth quarter. 5 of those came on, it was a Grace Berger 3-pointer. Nebraska threw the ball away on the inbound. Grace Berger got the ball back. It looked like another 3-pointer. Her foot was on the line for one of them. And that was 5 of their 8 fourth quarter points right there. They had 1 point for the better part about 6-7 minutes in that fourth quarter. They scored I believe a layup late in the quarter when it was done. It was a pitiful fourth quarter performance. That wasn't even, they had 8 points in the second quarter as well. It really struggled offensively. I don't know how many ways I can say it. They only led for 5 minutes on the night. Granted, this is a Nebraska team that beat Michigan earlier in the season. And they are capable of this, but it's still a pretty bad loss. Part of it, it's a quick turnaround. They played on Saturday. They were right back at it on Monday. That's probably catching up with them. No Mackenzie Holmes is catching up with them. Our Mackenzie Holmes watch, she wasn't with IU tonight. It didn't seem. I didn't see her on the bench. I saw a couple people pointing out on Twitter at the beginning of the game she wasn't there. If I had to guess, she's probably doing rehab back in Bloomington, and that is much more of a priority right now to get her healthy. So obviously did not make her return tonight. It still, I would imagine, would be close, but it was not tonight. The good news is the Hoosiers had a bit of cushion because after I recorded on Sunday, Michigan lost to I honestly can't remember. They played Michigan State on Saturday or earlier late last week, but they came back and lost to Northwestern in double overtime on Sunday, which meant the Hoosiers had a 2-game lead going into this one. They just immediately absorbed that cushion, and now it's back to a 1-game lead. Indiana is 10-2 in Big Ten play. Michigan, Ohio State, Maryland are all 11-3. IU holds wins over Ohio State and Maryland, not over Michigan. They're not going to play Michigan again. They're not going to get that tiebreaker. So they have a 1-game lead, and they need to hang on to that. They will be right back in action. They're going to be playing a lot, as we've mentioned multiple times. Back in action on Thursday against Northwestern. Then they play Saturday against Iowa. Then they travel to Iowa on Monday. So this is from Monday to Monday. That's 8 days, 4 games in that span. Cool. It's going to be brutal. They're going to be tested, the Hoosiers are, if they're going to come away with this Big Ten trophy at the end of the season. But hopefully at some point in these next 8 days, Mackenzie Holmes will be able to return. They have Maryland at the end of next week on next Friday to wrap up the regular season. I still think there might be a makeup game thrown in there as well. So it is a sprint to the finish line for the Hoosiers, and they are running out of gas. So head on out there Thursday. Give them all the support you can because these ladies need it. This is still an incredible season. Help them get to that finish line on Thursday. And then Saturday is senior night. Again, this is an incredible class that deserves all the praise and recognition. So I hope they're able to absolutely pack Assembly Hall on Saturday. Thanks again, guys, for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. We'll be back with you tomorrow to recap this Wisconsin game, give you maybe a little bit more of a preview of the women's game as well. Now, for your second listen today, head on over to the Locked On Bets podcast, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Appreciate all the love you guys continue to give us. Follow us on Twitter at LO_Hoosiers. Subscribe to the podcast if you aren't already. Leave a rating and review. Helps us out a ton. Most importantly, have a great Tuesday, everybody.